Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Denny Directo rocking a little bit of a curly hair look on
Okay.
that beautiful kitten head today.
Keeping you on your toes, okay?
I'm Lauren Zima here with Denny D. This is ET Live at Home, where we are bringing you the entertainment news you need to escape for a minute in the middle of this horrible global pandemic. First off, Ina Garten helping us escape big time with a big old drink. We're going to get into that. And then Shaq going off DJing for his fam in his kitchen during the quarantine. Then, I spoke to some of the most major faces in the murder, mayhem, madness story that is Tiger King. We have exclusives with Jeff Lowe, Joe Exotic's business partner, and Doc Antle, his mentor. Denny, what else we got?
Meanwhile, there are some celeb couples who are struggling a bit being self-isolated with their partner in such close proximity. We're talking Gwyneth Paltrow and her husband, Brad Falchuk, Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard. Kristen talked exclusively to ET's Kevin Frazier. Meanwhile, I spoke with former mom Jay Shetty, who has some advice for all those couples who are quarantining together. But first of all, let's start with by raising a quarantini to our girl, Ina Garten. I mean, she really gets us in these trying times. We need a cocktail more than ever.
Yes, Denny, drink it up. Ina making the world's biggest cosmopolitan in the world's biggest pandemic of all of our lifetimes. The cooking at-home lifestyle goddess took to Instagram. And what's so great about this video that she posted that has everybody obsessing over it is, at first she's kind of looking like she's just making a normal Cosmo, right? She's telling you the recipe. Then you realize, man, she's really using, that's like that's a lot of vodka. And that's a big shaker. She's shaking it all in. And then at the end, Ina whips out the biggest martini glass we've ever seen and drinks the whole thing. Denny, I see you tried. You tried.
I don't have a big one, which I needed. I had two, though. I was like, all right, I know we're going to pour one out for you, girl. The best part about that was how unexpected it was. Because you're right. You're
so
like,
unexpected.
okay. But I was riveted
By the way,
the whole time.
I'm frustrated because I have a huge wine glass. It's just at work, and so I can't get to it. That I ordered off Amazon. It's supposed to cheers. Coffee cheers.
Cheers to you. I get it. She's a damn mood, though. That really put me in the right spot today.
Well, Ina has inspired me to look around just for what I can find. That's what quarantining is all about. I'm going to be making my drinks in this from now on.
Like anything, alcoholic beverage.
What I want to tout about it is that it's Tupperware. So, you might not be able to have friends over, but you're going to save your drink for as long as you can and enjoy it.
And listen,
I'll probably get through this in a day.
In the time of a pandemic, you can't share either. So that's all you, girl, okay?
I love how she even says in the Instagram video, you could make this if a friend stops over. Oh, wait. No one's stopping.
No one's coming over. I love it. What a mood.
I know.
Someone else who's having a lot of fun in the kitchen during quarantine, Shaquille O'Neal. He turned it all the way up, busted out his turntables, and turned it out in the kitchen with his kids. Take a look. You guys, you forget, Shaq moonlights as a DJ. DJ Diesel is an actual thing.
Really?
Yes, he has performed at festivals. And you know what? When you're stuck at home with your teenagers, that's what you got to do, okay? I kind of wish he had like a disco light, to really.
We need to get him some pyrotechnics.
It was amazing.
It was so much fun to watch because, again, we keep saying this, the silver lining about all this, I think, is seeing families enjoy their time together. Yeah. We might get annoyed with each other, which we'll be getting into later in this episode. But I just love those little moments of laughing with each other, of finding a way to have fun at home. And also to see men that large, especially Shaq, jump like that. There's something about it. It feels the chaotic energy is on point because you're like, this man is the biggest man. He's just going off.
There was that one video, I can't remember which festival it was. It's one where he did play, but he went to go see other DJ sets and you could see him. I mean, what is he, almost like 7 feet in the crowd, like moshing with everybody. Like he had to turn up a dance party, especially.
Now I got to look it up. Shaq height is 7'1".
7'1", he's 7 feet. Not to be outdone, he is performing. He's dancing in the kitchen with his sons, his stepson, and his nephew, and they're all large. So that's how you do it, you guys, when we've been ordered to stay at home. Okay, that's how you do it. Meanwhile, while he's turning it up, he's also going off. I don't know if you caught his podcast yesterday, but Shaq on his podcast, The Big Podcast with Shaq on Wednesday, kind of reacted very strongly to those who were criticizing his like very brief appearance in The Tiger King. Let's play a clip of it first and then dissect.
Every now and then I'll do human stuff and get in trouble. But have I ever showed you that I would harm an animal, you asshole?
Oh, no.
A man can't go to a zoo right now and take a picture? One thing you have to know about the Shaq O'Neal, John, have you ever seen me say no to a picture?
No.
B-Dog, have you ever seen me say no to a picture?
Nah.
Rob, have you ever seen me say no to a picture?
No.
Just because I take a picture with you don't mean you're my friend, buddy. Just because I take a picture with you and say something for your little video or your podcast don't mean I'm down with you. Don't mean I do the stuff that you do. You know what I do? The right thing.
I mean, I don't blame him. First of all, I was like, oh my God, there's Shaq. But there's so much more stuff going on in that docuseries that I cared more about than Shaquille O'Neal being in it. But apparently he's been being dragged a little bit online with a lot of people connecting him to Joe Exotic, you know? And so I can see
right. I mean, look, I feel like if you saw the episode, it seemed really clear to me that Shaq stopped by for some kind of visit to the zoo, and he was just kind of being nice to Joe. I don't think they were friends who were chatting all the time or anything. I didn't get that impression. But you know, what's hard about this is that, look, at the end of the day, it's not illegal for cats to be in zoos, for exotic cats to be in zoos. I think what we're getting into with some of this backlash is people who do feel really passionately about whether big animals should be in cages and at zoos and the size of space they should have to roam and all that. But at the end of the day, like, you know, this is not overall an illegal thing, and Shaq was going to a zoo, you know?
I was going to say, it's important to note that like Shaq has denied any involvement with Joe Exotic beyond visiting the zoo and taking some photos. And he even said, if I take a photo with a fan, that doesn't mean I'm your friend. And I have to agree with him. But, you know, he also has people from the actual documentary defending him too. You just spoke with Jeff Lowe.
Yes. So, oh my gosh, my day yesterday, I'm wearing my cat print earrings, I was affected by it because I did back-to-back interviews with Doc Antle and Jeff Lowe. We're going to talk Jeff Lowe first. He, of course, is Joe Exotic's one-time business partner who Joe has now made some claims about in a new lawsuit of his from prison. And I talked to Jeff Lowe and Lauren Lowe about so much. Let's take a quick listen.
He's a sweet man, and PETA needs to leave him alone because I don't think Shaq cares what PETA thinks.
A common thread there is that it seems maybe these filmmakers were telling people different stories, according to you guys, or weren't
being honest.
Yeah, that's a whole nother interview. If you want to get into the nuts and bolts of that, they misled all of us. They paid everybody for interviews that I know. Maybe they didn't pay everybody, but they paid everybody that we know. The employees here all got paid for their interviews, and they lied to us, and they conned us into taking them to the strip club so they could get footage that was better. They gave alcohol to employees that were alcoholics to get better interviews. And, you know, it's sad that they couldn't just come to us and say, here's what we want to do.
Are you already hooking up with the nanny?
No. Not yet.
Go off the air. Go off the record. Go off the record.
That's later.
I don't know. Look, we saw it. You said, "Hey, I hired somebody who looks great and who's nice to look at." So you got to ask the question. You know, you're a lucky guy, is what you're saying.
I am a lucky guy. Yes, lucky guy.
So the nanny. I know everybody remembers the nanny. What's the question there? They said, in the docuseries, Jeff is seen literally looking at pictures of the nanny they plan to hire, and he says, well, I want to hire someone who looks good. Okay. So they told me the nanny is spending time on and off with the baby right now, getting to know the baby before they plan to move to where their new zoo is going to be. But I spoke to them from the zoo that was once Joe Exotic's, the Greater Wynnewood Zoo. So they're there. They live on the zoo. You could hear tigers and lions roaring in the background sometimes during our interview.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jeff said, look, Shaq's a good guy and he didn't have anything to do with any of this. And he said, PETA, leave him alone. And he talked about, I mean, I pushed him on the big stuff. Look, people say you framed Joe Exotic. Did you? People say that you were part of a plot to kill Caryl. Were you? He addressed all those things. And I think all we can do is ask these people these questions and see what their answers are and kind of draw our own conclusions, because what captivates me about Tiger King is there are no necessarily hero people. There are no, you know, for sure through and through villains. Like, everybody has a past and everybody has questions surrounding them. One man who knows all about the ins and outs of the industry, though, is Doc Antle. When I sat down with him, it was a very different vibe than Jeff Lowe. Doc Antle gave me the impression he's a really intelligent man. I mean, I asked him multi-part questions, and usually when you're interviewing someone, especially if they're new to it, you know, they might say, wait, what was the question again? Or go back. Doc was on it. He answered everything I asked him. And as he said, he's been in Hollywood for decades and decades. I mean, he made movies like Ace Ventura. He said he worked on Dr. Dolittle. He was on Letterman and Leno back in the day with his animals. And of course, that Brittany Spears performance.
Yes.
Take a look at what some of what Doc Antle had to say. So that's you. That's you in those photos.
That's 20 years ago or something. That's right before 9/11. That's the day before 9/11 at the Metropolitan Opera House in New York City.
How
Crazy
much
time.
did you interact with Brittany? She was on top of her game at that point in her career. A huge
She was
star.
such a darling, just a fanatic person wanting a perfect performance. We were there for several days rehearsing so that the Tigers would be relaxed and happy to be out there and that everything could be smooth and taken care of as best as possible. She was there rehearsing and working, just the hardest working, sweetest young girl out there making all the pieces click together. I think Caryl killed her husband, but I don't know how she did it. I only have the evidence of the show, which seemed to produce a preponderance of ideas that convinced me that that's probably what happened.
So who do you think was misrepresented the most?
Me.
That's what I figured you'd say.
I mean, Caryl killed her husband and Joe is a crazy guy. They were both portrayed that way. That's genuinely who they act like anyway. We are not those characters. We have nothing to do with there being any threat to Cubs, with any raid, anything wrong with the law, any notion that there's a cult here or that women are not large and in charge here and able to make all the choices they want.
You know, I live for the Brittany tea, because when we first saw that photo of him standing in that cage with the tiger and Brittany clearly in her iconic, like, I'm a slave for you costume for the VMA performance, I was like, I need the backstory on this. And you know, we stand Brit, and it sounds like he did too.
Well, he used the Britney performance to make such an interesting point about the documentary. He said, look, I'm a businessman. He said, my zoo is the Ritz-Carlton of zoos, and it's because I've made so much money through this career, in part because of Hollywood. He said that he remembers charging $38,000 to bring that tiger for Britney's performance. So he pointed out, why would I be in this docuseries that I was not paid for in any way if I'm the type of person who charges for my time? He said the filmmakers told him it was going to be a conservation documentary, likely intended for HBO. Very interesting.
That is a claim I feel like that is coming from a lot of the key players in that documentary, including Caryl Baskin, who I seriously doubt that filmmakers were convincing her to open up about her missing husband, her current husband, the lawsuit, unless it was for the good of like saving big cats. You know what I mean?
For anybody out there, I just would think to myself, if I have this scandal in my past, that it was not a new scandal for her when the filmmakers came along. People had been suspicious of her. The authorities had allegedly, questioned her on her husband's disappearance. Why would you just talk about something like that that is already problematic for you, unless you were doing it for a reason that compelled you? So it is interesting to me, that Jeff Lowe and Doc Antle both told me that different things that the filmmakers told them about why the whole thing was being made. And yeah, Doc Antle making that point. I mean, according to him, they went and shot more footage in Sumatra with him, that he really thought they were making this conservation film. And he even said that the footage they did take was used wrong. That scene where he's pointing out his girlfriend's houses, he said, according to him, those are his neighbors' houses. He doesn't even own them. And the filmmakers his neighbors were texting him asking, why is my house in the show?
That is so bonkers. Well, so is he seeking legal action? Are either of them, Jeff or Doc, kind of seeking legal action on the filmmakers or Netflix?
Jeff didn't seem to be, though he did say he would not be interested in participating in a season 2. Though Jeff did say there's so much more footage that they shot they didn't show. He said he feels they could make a whole other season out of all this. And Doc said he is only communicating with the director through lawyers at this point. Wow. He would not 100% say, yes, he's going to sue, but he certainly said he has his lawyers looking into what his options are from here. It really was so fascinating. And look, what's also, we have to look at these people through the lens too of they're showmen, they're entertainers. Of course, they have their side of the story that they want you to believe. So I really tried to grill them and push them all. But it is interesting to think of, the filmmakers as part of this story too. And how did it all end up versus how they started it to be in the first place. One thing that Doc Antle and Jeff Lowe both agreed on, and Doc Antle said this several times without me even asking him. They both say that they think Caryl Baskin killed her husband. Woo. Now, Caryl has denied it. Caryl has denied it. We saw her deny it in Tiger King, of course. But they both said that they think that. And I asked Doc, because I don't know if you remember, there was a part in the series where it sounded like Joe Exotic's voice, I think, was saying tigers could eat a man no problem and consume the body. Yep. And I said, Doc, well, you're an expert. Is that true that they could do that? And he said, yes. Just like, oh. I
mean, it's so crazy because obviously Caryl Baskin has been the biggest threat to all of their businesses. And then this side story and these allegations come with Caryl, and that's the one thing that all of these guys can agree on. It's the one thing that I feel like the world is agreeing on right now. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I would like a second season just on that case.
I think there is something, there's still so much more here, but I would almost like a new producer director team to come out and approach it with a fresh set of eyes. I mean, Doc also pointed out all those little moments in the series when he's saying, hey, why don't you guys film it this way or do this? He said that these filmmakers didn't really know what they were doing. He said that at one point he had to ask one of the directors to stop coming because she kept asking him so many personal questions and he was confused because he thought it was for conservation. He just had a lot of really interesting points. So I want to speak to the filmmakers. I know we've reached out to them for an interview and they passed on it. So I would like to talk to them.
In the meantime, there's so much more from these interviews up at etonline.com and also tonight on ET. So check your local listings.
Yes.
Lauren's interviews will be there. All I know is that, what I'm hoping, wishful thinking here, this is a future American crime story. Someone get Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk on the phone immediately. I'll help cast.
Yes, and check out those interviews for both who Jeff Lowe and Doc Antle say they want to play them. Their casting choices for themselves are fascinating.
Well, speaking of Brad Falchuk, he and Gwyneth Paltrow, they're opening up about their struggles amid quarantine, Lauren. They popped up on a YouTube video titled, let me get this right, How Do You Find Intimacy in Uncertain Times? They kind of sat down with a sexuality and intimacy expert because they're struggling. I mean, they're among so many other couples who are cohabitating in this crisis for the first time within close proximity and nowhere to go. I know you and I can relate. They also talked about how Gwyneth's two teenagers, 15-year-old Apple and 13-year-old Moses, they're also cooped up in the house and everyone's feeling a little pent up. You know what? They joined a laundry list, I'm sure, of people who are trying to figure it out. Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard among them. Kristen just sat down with ET's Kevin Frazier about how she and her husband Dax are kind of driving each other crazy in quarantine. Take a look.
We have gotten on each other's last nerve this last couple weeks. We're doing much better now because we're laughing about it, but we were not laughing about it for the first couple days. Right. And that's the hard spot. But yeah, it's when you realize that I love spending time with him and he loves spending time with me, but I think what is different about this quarantine time is you have so much more time to think about the other person and their actions, and sort of replay what they said, or attach a meaning to something that they did. And like that I could do without. Nobody really needs time for that. That's useless.
I just love how she's keeping it real, because I know a few people can relate. I mean, day 20 consecutive days, actually 21 consecutive days with my boo. I'm actually shocked how well it's going. And we haven't wanted to kill each other yet. Who knows how long that'll last, but so far so good. How about you, Lauren?
I have to be honest, what's sort of really hard for me to admit is like the word that your relationship is tested, because I don't, it's a hard thing to say out loud that you feel like your relationship is being tested, and also for a reason that none of us wanted, right? It's not like we disagree on something or we have this fundamental life difference, but I do think that a global crisis is testing us. And that just, like, I do think we've grown closer. I think we've leaned on each other more. I think we've learned about each other more. But you certainly have to adapt and adjust. And there is something about that, just saying that things aren't easy is almost like a little bit of a scary thing to say, especially when everything else is so uncertain right
now. And it's that too, right? But that's when it's kind of special. And I don't take for granted that I have someone here in these uncertain times when like my anxiety is at an all-time high.
And I am so grateful to not be alone.
Right, exactly. And I will say, like, and this is a good problem to have. It's like, what happens when we get on the other side of this? Like, we've become kind of codependent, like, I'm going to miss him in my bed. Did I just say that? Yeah. And then there's those other couples who are struggling because they're spending so much time together. And so I actually got a chance to talk to Jay Shetty. Of course, he's a former monk turned, he's a host of his own podcast. And he shared this advice with me for couples who are stuck in quarantine together.
One of the things that me and my wife have really worked on is defining our spaces in our work day. It's awesome for 8 hours or the majority of the day that you're working from home, that you both still have that space and time because you're used to it, right? You're not used to sitting next to each other every single day, having everything. The second thing I'd say is make sure that you create meaningful things for you to do together. It's easy right now to think there is no date night, there is no way of having fun. Maybe we should just sit here and keep watching stuff together the whole night. Still make an attempt to have a date night indoors. Maybe have a virtual date night with all your friends and do a couples night together. Like, find new ways of still creating special moments together where it doesn't just feel like we're doing the same routine. That's where relationships get tricky, when you feel you're doing the same thing every single day. And so that's something I would look at.
So, yeah, I mean, see, it's really important that even though we're kind of stuck at the house, you still kind of have to treat it as if it's a work day. Have your separate spaces if you need it to work. And then also plan those special moments together, whether it's you have no choice. It's most likely going to be a date night at home, but make sure you're still doing that. And also the biggest thing I took away from talking to Jay was like, don't lean on your partner to entertain you. That's not their job. So I guess we have each other, Lauren, to entertain.
It's a good tip. It is. And it's so true.
And listen, if you're in need of entertaining yourself, look no further than the Getty Museum, who actually tweeted folks to recreate some classic paintings while they're in quarantine. And people went all out. It did not disappoint. Did you see some of these?
I love it because it's like, look, one thing that we are kind of missing right now is art and cultural experiences in person. And the Getty Museum, who expected them to hop on this? But I love that they did. This horse made out of clothes. Love the creativity. Of course, people using blankets and sheets. We've got Coke cans instead of teacups for this classic. And, a pug instead of a baby, but it works.
I love it.
Let's get creative.
People are getting exactly. I was about to say that. People are getting so creative in the time of quarantine. And if TikTok is not your cup of tea, why don't you recreate a Renaissance painting? Do it. You have the time. But that's all the time for us, Lauren.
I love you. Thank you for entertaining me. Quarantinis all day.
Oh, it's not even 5 o'clock yet. I hope it is where you guys are. That's right. Until then, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.